Hello then, and welcome to another video from Change Tips and Tools. And yes, it's me, Phil Bourne, the Brummie that hails from Birmingham, England. And today I wanted to take a bit of a break from the Power Query theme of late and talk about data validation. And a lot of people associate data validation as something you can use for your drop-down list, but there's much more to data validation, and I want you to go through what it can offer so you can utilize the best ideas for your templates going forwards. So let's talk about the drop down first of all. So we all know that we can use it as a drop down. So if I take this list of numbers here and I select the table here and I go to formulas and I go define name, and I'm just going to call this number as my name range, and there it references this column here, and I'm going to do OK. And obviously because it's a table it will expand. Then if I then select this cell here for my first drop down and go to the data ribbon, do data validation and then data validation again, I'm going to select list. And here if you press F3 it'll bring up your name ranges just in case you can't remember them. And there's my R number. I'm going to select that and click OK. Now what you can do with data validation is you can set a title to it and an input message. So for example, please select from the drop down list, if I type that correctly as well. And then that can be a prompt, and then as an error message I can just say must be a valid selection. So let's see what that looks like. If I click OK, so now you can see, click out of it, I click in it, you can see there's that prompt. And if I just put something in there that's not valid, it'll then give me this error message here. So if I then cancel that, it'll wipe it. If I do the drop down, I can select on the drop down here. Now, say for example you want to do a dependent drop down list when there's a number of ways that we can do this, and you can see I've created a second table here. I'm a big fan of tables, Excel tables. Is that I've got the ones, the twos and the threes, and associated with them there is a letter. So what I can do is if I do list to support like so, and I do equals filter. So I'm going to use the filter function. So what I'm going to do is the array that I'm looking at is going to be these letters here. Yeah. My include argument is going to be this column here, and I'm going to select it where it equals here B4, and I'm going to put B4 like so. And then if I then do the if it's not, or if it's empty argument, I'm just going to put quotation marks so it just leaves it blank. There's nothing there. And then I'm going to hit return. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to wrap that in a sort, so it sorts it as well, just in case your information is not in a logical order. So there you can see if I then change that to 2, these change. So the way that you can use this as a drop down, again, if I go to data validation on the data ribbon, do data validation, if I then on the settings do list, and as on my input I select this, which is the start of the spill range. I then put a hash to include the whole spill range like so, and hit return, and then click OK. Is now you can see I've got the drop down, and if I change this to 3, you can see that it changes. dynamically. And if I clear that out, it should just give me a blank. So that's the data validation with a little trick around using the filter as a way of doing a dynamic range. So you've got a dependent drop down on another, and you can have multiple dependent drop downs. So that's typically what people use, is a drop down list for data validation. But you can also validate numbers. So you can validate whole numbers. So again, on the data ribbon, I can do data validation again. And this time I'm going to choose whole number. So here I can choose between two numbers. So here I'm going to choose it's got to be greater than or equal to 0. And then if I hit OK there, so if I put text in there, it's going to tell me to go away. If I do retry and I put -2, again, because it's not greater than 0, so again I'm going to do retry and I put 4, it accepts the number. And you can also do that for decimal numbers. So if I then do data validation again, instead of whole numbers, I'm going to choose a decimal number. So let's do between. So it could be between 0 and 1. And if I click OK, so if I put 8, it won't like it. But if I put 0.8 and hit return, it accepts that number because it's between 0 and 1. So that's numbers, and again you can use those in multiple ways on your templates when you only want numbers or a number range entered on your template. Now let's look at dates. So in the same way, same principle as numbers, if I select the cell on the data ribbon, data validation, and I select date this time, and again I can do it between. So all I want to do is make sure that this is an actual valid date. So I'm going to do greater than, and I'm going to put 01/1900, which is the start of the Excel calendar, and click OK. So now if I just type rubbish in there, it won't accept it. But if I put a valid date in there, it's fine. It works fine. And in the same way, we can look at time. We can do the same thing. So for example, if I go into data validation, so let's make sure I've got the cell selected, do data validation, and again I'm going to select time this time, and let's do it between certain hours. So say for example we're doing a timesheet, and these people are doing our people are working days, and our day shift is between the hours of 0900 in the morning. So I'm entering it in a proper format here. So hours and minutes, and then let's do it to 1800. So a day shift hours, and I do OK. So again, if I put 0800 here, it's going to tell me no. But if I put in, so 5:10, it's fine. So that's time validation. And then you always get those reports. So say for example, you've got a project status report and you want to limit the length of text. So we all know the length function. So if I do len, the length function, and I select this cell B4 and close that bracket, and I type change tips and tools like so, you can see it's counting the number of characters there. So what you can do, it's counting the number of characters including the spaces as well, by the way. So if I then want to limit how much text someone can put into a particular field, because I want to keep my report succinct and to the point, is I can use data validation again, do data validation, and let's choose text length. So let's say it's got to be less than or equal to 20. If I click OK, so let's type change tips. Let's do and instead of an ampersand, let's do and as a full word and tools, and let's see what happens. And click enter OK, and because the text length is over 20, it's telling me no. So I'm going to do retry instead of, but it cancel, it would wipe what's in there. I'm going to do retry, so it'll then allow me just to adjust. I'm going to do the ampersand, and there you go, it's fine. So you can set that as a test and limit how much text somebody puts in your reports, for example, on your templates. Now, custom is really powerful. So, for example, if I select the whole of this table here, and we know that we can do conditional formatting where I can use highlight cell rules and say, show me duplicate values. So I'm going to say, right, duplicate, light red fill and dark red text, and I'm going to click OK. So if I put 3 here now, it's saying in that table there's duplicate values, but it won't stop me doing it. But you can, through data validation, you can stop it from creating a duplication. So let me just delete a row there so it goes fine again. So if we want to look at a way of making this where it's always unique, I could do equals count if function. So I want to count this range here. So the range is going to be that. And what I'm going to do, because I want to use this in data validation, I'm going to use the indirect function. So the indirect function always turns text to a range, because data validation for some reason does not like you referring to a table within the validation. So I'm just going to do indirect, open bracket, put quotation marks, double quotation marks in front of it, and then afterwards do double quotation marks, and then I'm going to close the bracket on indirect, and then I'm going to do comma, and what I'm going to, the criteria I'm going to compare it to is going to be in B4. So I'm going to put B4 like so, and then I'm going to close the bracket, and then I'm going to say the test is got to be equal to 1. And if I do that and hit return, it should say true. So if I take this and I copy that formula, do control copy, I then select the table, the column, and do data validation and data validation again, and I go to custom, I can paste that formula in there and do control V and do OK. And now if I put 3 here, it should give me an error. But what if I want this to be numbers as well, only numbers? But if I do retry here and I do 3 instead, it'll accept it. What if I want to make sure that this is a number? So I want it to be unique, but also ensure that it's a number. Again, this is where the custom function is really powerful. So if I press F2 to put this cell into edit mode, like so, I'm then going to, at the front of it, do and. So remember the and function, both logical tests need to be true for it to output true. So I'm going to do and, so this is the first test. I'm going to do comma. The second test is going to be is number. So I'm going to check cell B4. I remember this is relative. And I'm asking it if it's an is number. So if it's a number, it'll return a true. And I'm going to close the bracket on the and function like so. Then I'm going to copy this. So let me just do another trick. So let's do formula to text. So you can see the formula that I put in there. There you go. That's the formula. I'm going to control copy that, escape, I'm then going to, let's delete that row there. So I'm going to do delete row. Let's select this and do data validation. And I'm going to just overwrite that with the new formula and say OK. And now if I type 3 there, it won't accept it because it's not a number. If I do retry, if I do 3, it won't accept it because it's a duplicate. So it's checking both those conditions. If I do a retry and type 4, it's fine. And that works perfectly. So there's the custom validation method. Now, again, I think you'll agree those are all extremely powerful and useful in your templates. But one of the things that we do know is that our users have a tendency to copy and paste stuff into our template. So they might copy and paste it from another Excel spreadsheet and then paste it into our tables or into our templates. So there is a way that you can disable that, yeah, and stop them out, because as soon as you copy and paste into a cell that's got data validation, that data validation will be overwritten. So we can stop that. To do that, first of all, I need to save this template as an Excel macro enabled template. So let me do that. I'm going to do File, Save As, and I'm just going to do the drop down and make it a Excel macro enabled workbook, like so, and do Save. And then on the developer ribbon here, or right click on the tab, I can do View Code. So one of the things that we can do is if I go to, say, this sheet list and select it and do the drop down and select worksheet. So the first it's picked up is selection change, and that's the one we want. So what we can do is say application dot cut copy mode equals false. Return on that. If I then go to Excel, if I put test there and then I do control copy, soon as you can see the paste option is there, as soon as I click anywhere else in there, it disappears. I can't paste anything at all. But what if you want to be able to paste stuff in certain areas of your spreadsheet or your template, but you don't want it pasting or impacting data validation or certain cells? Well, the way to do that is if I then go back to, so if I go to Developer and Visual Basic, is if I then wrap this into some more code. So I'm going to use the intersect function to check where I'm at, either target, because it's returning the target each time I change a cell, which is a range in itself, and I want to compare it to a certain range. So if I do if not, if not application dot intersect, I'm going to select that option there. I'm going to do open bracket. So first of all, I'm going to compare the target, which is each time I select a cell, it's outputted to this variable here as a range. I'm then going to compare that to the range. So those two cells were B4, so I'm going to put in quotation marks B4 colon, and let's do it to D4 colon. I'm then going to close the bracket on the range. I'm going to close the bracket on the intersect function, and I'm going to type is nothing. Then do the application cut mode is false. Do end if just to close that if statement. And what I'm going to do is I'm going in front of the application cut mode, I'm just going to do tab just to indent it so it makes sense. And now if I go back to Excel, if I do control copy and select anywhere else, you can see that the paste function is available, but as soon as I select one of these, it disappears. I can't paste. So that's a really powerful tool. The other thing that you can do is if you can paste values only, which will not impact data validation. So you can set values only to a shortcut. So Control V could be paste values only, because everybody does Control V. And the way that you can do that, again, is if I go to right click on here and do View Code, is what I'm going to do. I'm going to insert a module, not a class module, but a module. And here I'm just going to name it in the properties MC cut paste. Yeah, and hit return. And in here, I'm just going to create a simple sub. So I'm going to do sub. I'm going to call it cut paste special. So hit return. So I've now got the open and close brackets and the end sub statement there. And all I'm going to type here is selection dot paste special. And I'm going to do paste colon equals Excel paste values, like so. And hit return on that. And if I just put here as well, make sure I type that properly, and then you go selection dot paste special, then paste colon equals Excel paste values. There you go. Then all I've got to do is if I go into my Excel file here and I go to my developer tab here, or if you do view as well, and if I go to macros here, and you see this cut paste special, so I'm just going to do this workbook, cut and paste special. I'm going to do options, and I'm going to do shortcut key. I'm just going to put a V there, yeah. So control lowercase v and do OK. So now close that down, and let's do equals 1 plus 2. Oh, plus 2 should equal 3. If I do control copy and then do control V, you'll notice there's the formula. It's pasted the value by me doing control V there. So there are some ways that you can limit your users overwriting your data validation. So, as I said at the start of this video, data validation is much more than just a drop-down list. I hope this video was informative and has given you many ideas on how you can use the many multifunctional capabilities of data validation for your own templates. And if you did like this video, it would really help the channel if you remember to click that like, subscribe, and smash that notifications button for future content. And as always, I wish you an absolutely wonderful day wherever you are in the world. Please take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video from Change, Tips and Tools. Bye bye now.